Guys, what's up? Big Jason. I'm here with my special guest and my very own internet attorney, Mike Young. What's up, Mike?
Hey, Jason. How's it going?
Doing good. So, guys, we're going to talk about what happens, whether in the U.S. or especially in a foreign country, when someone pirates your products or services, and some things you can do before that even happens. And I'm just going to let Mike take it away because I've worked with Mike for over 10 years. For myself, he's already helped me with the pirate of Scott Haynes, Mongo, Gary Halbert's best student. He got somebody to stop pirating his materials, and he's helped some of my friends, battle the FTC over rogue affiliates. So he's especially qualified for this. So Mike, take it away.
All right, we'll do, Jason. First thing, this is not going to be legal advice. This doesn't create an attorney-client relationship. I've got to say that. This is going to be some valuable information to help you do what you need to get done. But if you have specific questions regarding some unique fact pattern, go talk to a lawyer on this, as opposed to saying, well, I heard on a webinar or something, or Facebook Live, such and such, without actually going through and providing all the details so somebody can actually give you informed advice. To get started on that, we're going to cover a couple things today. First, we're going to talk about the prevention, the things you do ahead of time, and what's effective, what's not effective on that. And then we'll go into the second part, which was the responses to piracy. There's going to be two types. One's going to be non-litigation related. In other words, we're not touching the court system at all. And as a practical matter, I don't sue. I've got somebody in my firm that does that type of thing, but it's not something I do. I have no interest in it. So I really like to focus on the non-litigation effective things because if I can keep somebody out of court, I prefer to keep somebody out of court. And, of course, we'll talk about litigation, things you can do with that, and how to prepare yourself for that so you can maximize the effectiveness of it. So if you have to really go after somebody and take them apart in court, you can do so, and you have all the tools to hammer them with. So to get started here, we'll talk about the prevention. From a technology standpoint, I get this all the time. Well, what can I do? Is there secret things I can number on a page or whatever? But yeah, there's video. For example, if you're doing video as part of an info product, you've got the coded anti-piracy, the CAP, which is digital forensic watermarking. That's great stuff. It's cool. And for many people, it would probably work. You could track down, if you saw on the net, who got the copy and get an idea as to where it was pirated from and go after them. But as a practical matter, for about $1,500, I can go out there and get a device that strips that out and then go out there and resell the stuff if I was a pirate. So is it good? Yeah, it does work, but it's not foolproof. And if somebody really wants to go out there and they're making a living at doing this and they have the technology skill set to do so, what you will see is they'll go spend the money and get themselves the technology in order to just strip out the forensic watermarking on your videos. Even easier, of course, there's a lot of info products that include PDFs. Same thing. You've got the static, which identifies the owner. You have dynamic types of watermarking you can use, which identifies the user, the person who's using it.
Like I do.
Yeah, but unfortunately, there's free watermark strippers online. Yeah. So it's pretty easy in a lot of cases to just strip out on the PDF and then turn around and resell it. And you'll see more of that happen than you will people paying the actual money to strip it out on the video. So from a technology standpoint, yeah, there is technology there, but for every piece of technology that comes along, somebody comes along and finds something that they can do either for free or for minimal cost to go ahead and get rid of it. So it has a limited use. I wouldn't say don't use it. I would say it's going to help with some pirates, but it's not a foolproof method. Copyright registration, this is extremely, extremely important. And in fact, the U.S. Supreme Court came down on March 5th with the decision that just emphasizes how important it is. If you want to sue somebody, not that you want to, but you want to be able to even threaten to sue them for piracy in the U.S., you want to have a copyright registration on that product that you've been selling. And because it's a prerequisite for it. You want to register the work prior to the commencement of the infringement or within 3 months of the first time you publish the work to be eligible to recover statutory damages and attorney's fees. That is very important. Why is that? Because if you register it timely like that, then you can go out to the pirate and say, look, every time you infringed, I'm going to seek up to $150,000 for that infringement. So if you sold 25 bootleg copies of my work, I want 25 times 150. May not get it, but it's a huge hammer you can hit over somebody's head with it, that you're going to destroy their life and force them into bankruptcy, and they're not going to be very happy. And the attorney's fees on top of that, because the last thing you want to do is force yourself into a situation where you have to go to court you go after some stupid pirate and you spend all your money on attorney's fees, and you've won, but you've lost because you spent more than it was ever worth to go to court.
Yep.
So what's it cost to do copyright registration? If you're going to do the normal registration, I recommend doing it online. You go to copyright.gov. Is the word copyright, not copywriters, but copyright.gov. And you do a normal online registration. It's $35. I mean, it's worth that investment to get it. Now, it's going to take you about 3 to 6 months for them to process that and give you the actual registration for after you file the application online. Now, if you would want to do it the old way, you can do it snail mail and send it in to them. If you do that, the application's $85, and it's going to take you about a year to get your registration. I would not recommend that. You can do it, but once again, you've limited your tools that you've got in your toolbox if somebody's trying to pirate something, particularly if it's something hot that you've been selling, and there's a high demand for it now, but there might not be 9 months down the road.
My wife did it online, and she said it was super easy. And there was a couple things that they need more information. They just emailed her. She emailed them back, and it was no big deal.
Yes, it's very easy to do. In fact, I tell all my clients, unless you really want me to do it yourself. I mean, it is designed for you to do it as a non-lawyer. That's how they set it up, which is great. I mean, I'd rather see somebody in small business, because I own several businesses myself, me and my wife. I'd rather see a small business owner spend their money on something that helps them get what they want, as opposed to putting in unnecessary legal fees. And in this case, copyrighted registration, you should be able to do it yourself. Now, that being said, if you have something very hot, and I mean, if you happen to be one of these info product gurus or whatever, you're going to be pirated out the wazoo, and you really want to make sure this doesn't happen. You want to make some examples out of some people. You can actually file for what they call expedited registration. Now, expedited registration gets you that a lot quicker, so that if you have a pirate, you can slam them down rather than waiting 3 to 6 months before you get the registration to be able to have the teeth to put behind it. It's supposed to be 5 working days for them to process it. As a practical matter, it's going to be about 3 weeks. But 3 weeks is a lot better than 3 to 6 months if you've got a product out there that you're selling for $2,500 to $10,000 or even more, and there's going to be pirates out there ripping it off and trying to sell it for $250 online. Unfortunately for that, expedited registration, not only is it going to take you 3 weeks, but it's $800. So you really have to do a cost factor analysis of that. If you're selling a $29 ebook, that's a lot of ebooks you got to sell in order for it to make sense for you to, pay $800 for an expedited registration. I would say high ticket items, consider it. That's about it on the prep on the front side of it. Now, responses to piracy, I'm going to go into first start with the non-litigation part of that. First of all, there's the cease and desist demand, and Jason covered a little bit. I can't go into details of that stuff. If he wants to tell you what happened, he's more than welcome to. But when you send a cease and desist demand, it's great when you've already got the copyright registration, at least the application in place, because at some point you're going to get that registration, so you can hammer them with it. You say, you can make it clear you have the copyright. And you do have the copyright, if you don't have it registered, you're not going to have much teeth behind it. The good thing is a lot of pirates don't know that. If you just say, I have the copyright, they may not have a clue that the fact that it's not registered. In part of the cease and desist demand, when you want them to stop doing what they're doing, I would include an affidavit of destruction for the stuff. If they've got anything digital of yours, you want them to sign off and swear, notarized, that they've destroyed every copy, the digital copy they've got. If it's physical copies, you want them to surrender every copy to you or certify they don't have it anymore. As in, here's my mailing address, you send me every bootleg physical copy you've got of my product.
Mike,
pardon?
You want to talk real quick just about the psychology? Like when we worked together, somebody was pirating Scott Haynes' materials, and he had been doing it for years. Scott had multiple times told him to stop, and he kept on saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know," or blah blah, some BS excuse. He said that to me, and I was just like, you know what, this guy's not getting the message. And that's when I talked to you. Just talk a little about the psychology for a multiple times offender and how to really send the message.
The message on that needs to be very clear that you're willing to go to the wall on that. And I mean, I would mention attorneys on it. It's like, I'm doing this nice. This is my first step. I'm approaching you and saying, we'll assume this is an honest mistake. stop it now. And if you know it's a multiple offender, don't even say that. Just say, look,
Right.
I know you're infringing. You've done it before. You're doing it now. This is my attempt at being nice. Stop it. And if you don't, my attorneys are going to stop you. Now, as part of doing that, and I will get into that, I'll get into that very shortly. There's another type of threat you can use in different countries that I really like to use. That's even better than attorneys, and it's pretty fun to use. I've used it successfully in China. I've used it in Thailand. I would assume it would probably work in Mexico and a few other countries where there's the law, and then there's people who can, shall we say, make somebody's life very difficult if they live in that country if they happen to cross the wrong person, and it has nothing to do with the court system. So, going back to these with a cease and desist demand, I would also demand if they're running a domain name, particularly that resembles yours, for what you're selling your product, that they transfer the domain name to you as well. That's part of the deal. Don't back down. I mean, you want this stopped, and you're making it very clear that they're destroying every digital copy, they're providing you back every bootleg physical copy they've got, and they're transferring the domain name to you. And this is you being nice, and they should be thanking you that you're not doing more to them. You may also want to, depending on the situation, you may also want to make a demand for damages. Sales proceeds or a flat fee. Say, I want a customer list, and we know what you're selling it for. Now cut me a check for that amount. Or just a simple flat fee. I mean, there was an attorney, internet attorney in Florida. You know Bob Silver, Jason?
No.
No. Yeah, Bob had about 10 years ago, he had been selling privacy policies, that type of thing, and somebody thought, oh, this is a great idea, I'm going to go make some good money on it. So they basically took Bob's privacy policies and the rest. As an attorney, he had a copyright for it. They took them all, ripped them off, threw them in a piece of software, and sold the software. Well, Bob took them apart. Bob went to every one of them and said, look, not only did he go to the pirate, and he said, you're going to be paying up. And the guy actually posted on the site, I am so sorry, I didn't understand. He made a very public professional apology that he didn't realize that he had done what he had done. And then Bob took that customer list of the guy and went after every one of them and said, look, you've infringed, I've got copyright on these things, you've got a choice. You either pay me a flat fee, and from what I understand it was $3,000 to $5,000 per customer he went after.
Wow.
Or I'm going to sue you. And they paid. They had no choice because they would have paid a lot more if they'd have lost. And getting into that as far as the threats are concerned, going back, for example, the Chinese one, I love this one because it's worked for me. Every time I've used it, it doesn't guarantee it's going to work for you, but it has worked for me when I've worked in authoritarian regimes. And I'll give you the China example. I had a client who was having their stuff pirated and sold off of a Chinese site and for products. And basically the email comment to them was, what do you think General so-and-so is going to think when I let him know that you did this? And General so-and-so was the head of the People's Liberation Army. I got a profuse apology, and the thing was taken down immediately. Because that general had the ability to basically make that person disappear. Now, I wasn't threatening that. I didn't even say I knew the general. I just said, what do you think would happen once I let General so-and-so know that you did this? And anything on that, Jason?
No, that's epic. That's a great tip.
Yeah, and I've used it in Thailand as well, so I would expect it would work elsewhere. Pardon?
One question that I think some people that are going to watch the replay might have is, what advice would you give someone using that versus actually physically threatening somebody? That's probably not what you want to do, right?
No, you don't want to physically threaten somebody. In this case, I'm not physically threatening somebody, but I mean, for example, in China, they now have their new social credit score system. And I guarantee you that if the wrong person got wind that somebody was doing something they considered to be inappropriate, the social credit score would suddenly disappear, and the person would go from 100 to 0 and not be able to travel outside their home.
Right.
It would be a very, there's things beyond the legal process that you can take a look at when this, and I don't say doing this to be unfair to anybody else. If you have a breach of contract dispute with somebody that's in China or somewhere else, don't use that type of threat. I mean, to me, that's unethical. But In this case, you have somebody who's clearly pirating, making a living pirating, stealing from you, and they know they're stealing from you. They're not setting this thing up, just on a lark. I have no qualms with letting them know that, I might reach out to them, this person. And, I'm not saying, hey, they're my best buddy, my friend. I'm just saying, what do you think they'd think? Right. And they have no idea of knowing what my relationship is with that general. And they wouldn't know with you either.
As far as the U.S. concerns, do you know of any potential legal ramifications if you literally physically threaten somebody over this?
Oh yeah, there's very minimal. There's very minimalized the cyberbullying and the rest of it. They could go after you. Many states have cyberbullying laws. I would not put anything in an email or a video or anything that suggested you were going to be physically threatening somebody. I mean that would not be a good thing.
Yeah, so guys, even though this group is called Kick Pirates in the Nuts, do not actually tell people you're going to kick them in the nuts.
Now, another thing locally you may want to do as well, not that you're going to get much out of it, but it's fun as far as the threat's concerned, domestically in the United States. If there's somebody who's doing something illegal, such as copyright infringement, trademark infringement, the rest, you can also put in your email, do you really want me to report you to ic3.gov? Yes, the letter I, the letter C, the number 3.gov. And that's the Internet Crime Complaint Center.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Now what they do as a practical matter, that's actually more of a, I'm being stalked, I'm being threatened, and the rest of it. But your typical pirate's not going to know that. But they're going to look at it and say, oh my God, he's going to report me to the FBI Internet Crime Complaint Center. Do I really want the FBI breathing down my back?
It's a great sound.
So this is the type of things you can do in your cease and desist demand. Now, other things you can do without going into litigation is Digital Millennium Copyright Act complaint, a DMCA complaint to the ISP, to the internet service provider, for a takedown for the infringing site or web pages where they're selling it, and just find out where they're hosting their site at, and send the DMCA complaint and say, look, most big hosts have a process already in place. You just go to their site and you fill it out, give them the information they need, and they'll take a look at it, and they'll give the person a time to respond, and there's really no defense, so it's going to be taken down. So if many of them are using a large service to host the site, so it's kind of standard. They have people in place to handle these, and that's something you can do for free. You don't need to use an attorney. DMCA complaints is a very simple thing to take down web pages that are selling your stuff. Take down complaints to third-party sites selling infringing goods. For example, if you are selling a physical product, even if it's if it's an info product, if it's on paper or video, digital, a disc, somebody's using a USB or something. A lot of third-party sites do have and will respect takedown complaints. And an example that would be eBay. eBay has their verified rights owner program. Just search eBay for that verified rights owner program, and you can file a complaint online. You don't need an attorney to do it. And say, look, I have such and such. Like for example, Big Jason, I have the rights to Scott Haynes Shortcuts copyrighted course. And it's being sold here, for $5 by bootleg copies. These people have no authority to do it. It's and the eBay will take care of it. It may take them a while, but they can take it down. Infringement complaints to payment processors. This is always a nice one to do as well. More often than not, the pirate will be using something like PayPal. File a complaint with PayPal. Take away the source of their money. They suddenly discover they can't get paid for selling your pirated product because the buttons don't work anymore. Then they're more likely to move on and find easier prey. Move to litigation stuff now. Like I said, this is not my preferred thing. You can do it. I mean, please make an evaluation of the value of your time, your money, your life before you actually decide you're going to sue somebody. Threatening them with attorneys is one thing. Actually filing a lawsuit puts you in a whole different ballgame. Can do it. Copyright registration is, in fact, essential, as I mentioned before. If the registration is timely, you can get up to $150,000 per willful and attorney's fees. If it's non-willful, if these people are just an idiot and they can prove that the defense is, I'm an idiot, I didn't know that I willfully infringed, then you can still get $750 to $30,000 per non-willful infringement. So that there is actually an ability there to hit somebody over the head, even if they claim stupidity as a defense. The bad thing is if you don't register your copyright timely, you're really limiting yourself to only actual damages and profits, which can be very little if they're selling your stuff, your $2,000 course for $29.95 online for a digital copy of it. One of the things you can do is you can service a process. Now, these are things that are being done more in the trademark realm, for counterfeit goods, but it can be done for copyright registration. You can get them served with process by having the court take over their domain name and post the legal documents to serve them. And there's an attorney out of Florida, not the one mentioned here, I can find his name, that does that for large brands such as Louis Vuitton and whatnot. And basically what happens is one day somebody, rides their bicycle into town to check on their cyber cafe for their account where they set up 50 bogus sites selling, knockoff Louis Vuittons. And when they log into and look at they're at the cyber cafe, they're checking out their websites. Each of the websites suddenly has on there all the legal papers. You've been served, and here's the lawsuit we just filed against you. You have, and apparently one of the good places this is done at is in Las Vegas in federal court. There, you've been served federal district court in Vegas. Now, come and appear, or if you don't, you're going to lose. You get a court to order freezes on the pirates' PayPal and merchant accounts. So even if PayPal or the payment processors, merchant for Visa, MasterCard and stuff don't want to cooperate, you get a court order that will stop them from processing for the pirates. And this is a fun one too, because the search engines, Google and the rest, tend to respect it as long as you get a court order. Don't send a complaint to Google and say, I want you to do X, they're going to blow you off, or Bing. It's just not going to happen. But if you get a court order, and I've even heard of it being done in a small claims court where you walk in, the places where, you see like the people's court thing of the past, small claims, going in and get a court order for the search engine to delist the pirates' URLs. So the pirate, you've got a list of them, you walk in there and say, you're selling my knockoffs all over the place. Then you get a court order, then you provide it to Google and Bing and say, look, please just delist it. So the site technically exists, but does it really exist if the search engines don't recognize it? That's about it. I'm open to any questions.
One other thing you might comment on about, trying to handle things without a lawsuit is that, more often than not, you're probably not going to be being ripped off by a professional pirate. It's just some idiot who's, desperate or whatever. Maybe they made a couple thousand, 10,000, but if you actually went after them, how much are you actually going to get, right?
That's correct. There's only one. I think I forwarded it to you, Jason. The guy's first name he goes by is Lenny. Lenny's been around since the Stone Age, is probably 15 years now. I'm on his list. He doesn't know I'm on his list. Lenny markets everybody's thing. If you can think of a big info product marketer out there, the biggest names possible, he's marketing and continues to market bootleg copies of their stuff. And he sells it for a fraction of the cost because he sells it on a USB or a digital download. And the reason he's able to get away with that is Lenny is smart enough to understand, and he researched it, that a lot of these big info product marketers didn't bother to go out and register their copyright. And they're not going to go around 3, 4, 5 years later and register the copyright after the fact and then try to sue because they've already made the bulk of their stuff on a big product launch before.
Scott had a question. He said, if I'm selling a video, audio, and or written ebook or course about a topic, what, in your opinion, if you haven't covered it already, I think you did a little bit, what's the best way to protect it from being pirated? In your opinion, since we already covered that, there's easy ways to get around dynamic stamping like I do with Scott's stuff.
Yeah, and that stuff. I would put that on there, the stamping and all. But just understand that if it's a professional out there, the professional's going to strip it out.
Right.
So it's probably going to work with 75% of the pirates you're dealing with. So it is effective for those 75% of the pirates you encounter. But those other 25%, if they're doing this for lots of products and they're doing it as a primary source of income, they're going to strip out the watermarks. And it's playing whack-a-mole with them. but it's better than nothing. But whatever you do, register the copyright so that you have options. So that if something comes along and you can identify one of these pinheads and you see that they've got assets, you can go after them.
So let's just do a recap, because on one hand you want to put yourself in the best possible position not to get your stuff ripped off, but on the other hand, do you want to be obsessed with it where instead of making money you're all worried about little pirates? So try to dynamically watermark it, whether it's a PDF, video, or whatever. Or would you say the copyright is the number one thing? Register the copyright.
Okay, register the copyright is number one thing. Number 1 through 9 out of the top 10 things to do is register the copyright.
Got it.
And that varies too. You can register in Canada. It's similar to us, but Europe, they have private registrations, so you have to go through private entities to do the registration. It's kind of weird, but register the copyright. If you're published in the United States, register the copyright through copyright.gov. Now, when you're looking at this, and if you want to do marketing stuff, and there are some clever people out there as far as their business model where they encourage piracy, or you have some noted authors in science fiction and fantasy and whatnot who intentionally went out there and put out in peer-to-peer bootleg copies of their own books
because they want it passed around.
They want it passed around first book. If you got 7 books in a series or something, toss it out there. You got a light version of something you think will lead to an upsell, and you're willing to give that as a throwaway, go ahead, put the copyright notice on it, create value, make it look like they're pirating and they're getting away with something. But if you want to do that, more power to you. It is done for marketing. Mm-hmm. I know of a successful internet marketer who's in Jamaica that does that with PDFs all the time. It is a Legion thing, but there's copyright notices on it. So as far as the person's concerned, oh, look what I got away with. I stole somebody's thing and used it. Well, who cares? You don't care if they even sell it or not, because everything in it, somehow or another, you're going to be monetizing it on the back end to the extent that there's going to be any monetization.
Cool. I had a question. I'm sure a lot of people listening to this may or may have not done this, but what would you say to someone who goes, well, I need to put a copyright on this. Oh, I remember I bought a product and they had a really nice copyright, and then they copy and paste it, change a little bit for their product. What are some of the downfalls of doing that?
A general copyright notice, just the copyright notice itself, like copyright, to 2019, the name of your company, all rights reserved, that's fine. You go out there and put all the disclaimers and disclosure, whatever, you're ripping off somebody else's copyrighted stuff. For example, I've got a product, sell for authors that, it's ebook legalese, which, it's got the disclosure and disclaimers, the health disclaimers, and all the rest of that. Somebody goes out there and steals that and rips it off and uses it because they want it to put in their book to protect themselves. They've just infringed on my copyright. I sell it by license.
Right.
So it's not just the copyright notice itself is not an issue, because there's only so many ways you can say that, and probably you should say that. The copyright, the little C in a circle, the date of publication, year of publication, the name of who owns the copyright, and all rights reserved.
Yeah, I'm talking more about the disclosures and specific stuff like that. Yeah,
just like the website privacy policies and the rest. You don't rip them off of somebody else's stuff. Same thing with contracts, because you don't know who owns it. Like the attorney I was telling you about down in Florida. He went through, there were some of these people who were former clients of his that he went after and said, look, you used to be my client of mine. I don't care. You ripped me off. I want X amount of money.
Awesome. So if they want to hire you, like if they just don't want to deal with anything and they want you to help, do a cease and desist and all that, they can go to Mike Young Law, right?
Yeah, MikeYoungLaw.com. And it may not even be me. I may refer you to somebody else, or, I have an attorney in-house that does a lot of stuff. He's a registered patent attorney, so he handles patents, trademarks, and copyrights. There's a special separate bar you have to take if you're going to do patent law, and he has that. It may be him handling that type of thing. The long and short of it is, if I can't or he can't, I can refer you to somebody. But MikeYoungLaw.com would be the starting spot.
Awesome. And you also have Legal Forms Generator if they want to generate all their disclaimers and privacy policies and all that good stuff too, right?
Yes, I think you've got a link for that somewhere you can give them.
It's in the comments.
Okay.
And you want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh yeah, basically that was designed for about 90% of the sites out there. It's not designed for adult entertainment. You know, if you've got a porn site, don't use these forms. But if you know, for everything else, you know, if you're in a small business online, whether it's info products, whether it's copywriting, whether it's products and services, it's designed for a lot of that, particularly for people who sell products and services in the United States, no matter where they're based at. That's what it's targeted for. And it includes privacy policy, terms and conditions of use, includes a returns refunds policy. And if you're running an affiliate program, as in you have affiliates, it also has an affiliate program agreement you can use with your affiliates.
All right, guys. If they have any quick follow-up questions, you'll be able to answer them later.
Yep, sounds good.
Cool. Thanks again, Mike. I appreciate it.
Glad to help, Jason. Take care.
All right. Bye, guys. All right, guys. Hope you found that useful. Watch the whole thing again. There's some great tips on what you can do before you get pirated, what you can do after, and some stuff you can do yourself. I mean, one of my favorite TV shows is Suits. Their law firm would not hire Mike because Mike's all about helping people and do things themselves. He's happy to work for you. He's happy to work with me. I've used him for over 10 years, but he's a great guy. Let him know if you have any follow-up questions below. Check out Legal Forms Generator. I use it. I actually pay for it. He doesn't give it to me. And that's it. And we'll be doing some more live trainings. We got a trademark attorney that's going to be doing a training soon. So make sure you have notifications set to on, and I will talk to you guys soon.